As the trio made it to the Grand Hall, they found Volson and two of his remaining guards sitting at the table opposite the Nook, talking over a drink and some snacks. As they entered, Volson was quick to notice them and got up to greet them, hand outstretched. The guy was now in linen clothes, finely made it seemed. Perhaps they had just been under the thick coat. "Ah! So you are the strange one who decided to be a hero yesterday. I must thank you. That was quite the display." Well, he was certainly cheerful for what happened yesterday, Tom thought. Hi. Yeah, I guess. Volson, if you wouldn't mind, Tom is not so familiar with our language yet. Just take it slow, you know? Oh, certainly. Now, Tom, don't be so shy, man. I've never seen somebody use fire magic like that, and I've seen quite a bit. What did he do now? Lie or tell the truth? Best to lie. That way he didn't say too much. The others could correct him if they believed this guy should know the truth. Oh, not that hard. Practice makes perfect. Tom firmly crossed his fingers that it was good enough. At least he didn't have his weapons on him. I see. Where did you receive such training? You said you are experienced. Have you fought in many wars? Home. Very far away. Just one war. My good sir. I travel far and wide. Far away is closer than you think on the Dragonback. Denmark? No need to lie more than necessary, Tom thought. I stand corrected, it seems. Where is this Denmark? I've never heard of it. Far north. Next Sweden, Norway, Germany. I must say I'm stumped. How did you get here? Tom travelled by magic means, though not under his own power. Sapphire interjected. Oh, I see. That would explain a few things, Volson replied. Thank you, Sapphire. I owe you one, Tom thought. I have been assured your clothing does not reflect your personality. I must say, after yesterday, I'm inclined to believe it. I'm guessing where you are from is normal to be dressed like this? Yes, uniform. We fight for moon and nature. I see. Most peculiar. Anyway, glad to meet you, Tom. Volson turned back to the Nook and continued the negotiations. It seemed they were going over what the keep had to sell for the moment. Shiva, I believe you talked about acquiring metal for one of your projects, yes? The Nook started. Yes, I was lacking copper, tin and steel, and some zinc too. Or just brass, so I don't have to make it. A bit more lead won't hurt either. Oh, those clever bastards, Tom thought to himself. Well, they had talked about this. They couldn't afford the amount he needed. But perhaps he could get started on a few projects. I have some, yes. That is quite the shopping list, though. I have quite a bit of steel and a few of the others. What do you need brass for? Tom thought the merchant sounded a bit confused, but that was hardly surprising. How much do you need? How much do you have? The Nook answered coyly. About 120 gold's worth. But along with the other supplies you needed, don't mind me asking, but how are you planning on paying for that? You haven't exactly had a good start to the year. Tom had no clue how much 120 gold was, but it sounded like quite a bit. I seem to remember you were quite interested in my grandmother's sword at some point. For that, I would take every ounce of metal you have, our other supplies, and those fine bottles of wine you were showing off, and 300 gold. There was silence in the hall. Tom looked around confused before turning to Sapphire and whispered in her ear. That seemed bad? She answered in a hushed tone. Yes, she would never sell that. It has been in her family for generations. It's an enchanted blade. I don't even know what it would be worth. Was she planning on selling a priceless heirloom so he could make a lamp or a shitty pistol? Also a magic sword, that warranted investigation. He couldn't let that happen. Lady Bismarty, I object. Lord Joachim, and by length me, owe you big debt. Debt earned by that sword. Can't allow you sell. The Nook looked a little uncomfortable, seemingly forcing a smile. Don't worry, it is for the best, Tom. Besides, you are here to serve the keep, not pay for it. Won't allow. May I speak alone with you? Sure, not a problem. If you wouldn't mind, Volson, I'll be back shortly. The Nook got up. and Tom walked with her down the stairs to the kitchen. "Tom, you do not need to do this," Nanook protested. "Neither you. I brought things of value. Don't sell what is priceless for my projects." "Tom, what you brought is priceless. My grandmother's sword was made here. Another may be made." "Not all I brought priceless. I thought need things for trade here. My money no work here. Spices, alcohol, finest there is." "That might work, actually." Nanook seemed surprised he had thought about that. "Stuff with dragon, though?" Tom wasn't sure going to open boxes in front of the giant murder lizard. "Make a show of it. If Volson thinks it's all very exotic, he might pay more. Just don't show him anything too strange, okay?" I try." Tom was fairly certain he could convince that guy his stuff was exotic. It was, after all. But what to show and what to hide? As they walked back up, Tom spoke up. "Volson, follow, please. Have things to show." There was murmuring in the crowd and some worried looks here and there. This was not going entirely to plan so far. The resulting procession followed Tom and Nanook out into the greeting hall, where they were greeted by a very awake dragon looking down at them. Tom's heart skipped a beat. Being looked down at by a literal monster of myth and legend was more than a little unnerving.
"So, from what I heard, you are supposed to be crazy, ugly, and dangerous,"
the dragon greeted him. "Oh, hi, I'm Tom and, sorry?"
"Well, hello, Tom. I am Archeon. Pleased to meet you, and don't you worry. Nothing to be sorry for, little one. I believe that is Volson's duty."
The voice was sonorous like before, but turned down in volume. It did shoot a look at Volson, who just held his hands up apologetically. He did look damn scary, okay? I'm sorry." "No worry, I dress scary," Tom tried.
"I can't say I've seen somebody like you before. I overheard your little conversation with Volson. Seems you are quite far away from home."
Yeah, quite far. You're very big. Never seen big one before." The dragon chuckled a bit, and Tom felt the bass. This was surreal, he thought.
"Never seen a dragon? You are far from home."
Archeon tilted his head at Tom. Just like the dragoness, that looked very strange. Funny, even. He seemed friendly enough, too.
"Anyways, it sounded like you bought some things from this faraway place you wish to trade."
"Ah, yes, I find." Tom jogged over to his pile of boxes, taking note quite a few things had been moved around, likely when the others had looked for the medical supplies. He would have to check everything later. He had brought a few bottles of nice rum and whiskey, and a few glasses of spices. "You drink strong alcohol?" he asked, looking at Volson. "Well, yes. It's not often you get to enjoy it, but from time to time." That was good, at least. He knew the dragoness of the keep had that beer-like stuff, and he had seen a few barrels of what he thought was ale. He hadn't asked if they had any actual liquor. "Then this will interest," Tom said, pulling out a bottle of very fine whiskey. "Maybe finest you ever seen." Volson picked up the bottle with interest. "What is this?" "Don't know your word. We say whiskey very good, very old." "How old?" Tom looked at the bottle. 18 years. "My gosh, that is an old bottle. But I have no clue what whiskey is." "I will give you, it looks very fine in the label. Is that silver?" "Yes, only little." Well, Tom wasn't going to be explaining it wasn't actually silver, but one shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth. "What do you say is worth?" "I don't know, to be honest. If anything, this should go to a collector, I think. You say it's from your home?" "Yes, City of Storning. Very famous whiskey, bottle worth weight in gold." "Worth its weight in gold? You must be joking." Well, he was lying a bit, but it was very good whiskey, and possibly the finest bottle in this world at least. "No joke. We put silver on label for good reason." He did bring his little flask with him. He believed that it had some sort of whiskey in it. Perhaps a taste test was in order. He retrieved it from his backpack, taking a sip. That was whiskey all right, He presented the flask to Volson. Whiskey. Regular stuff, not fine, but still whiskey. Have taste. You are most generous, I must say. The dragonette took a sip of the flask. Whew, I say, that is quite potent, huh? It did look to Tom like the guy was a regular drinker. But I'll grant you, that is very fine stuff. The bottle is even better. 10 times the price, so yes. That was a blatant lie, but what the hell? I'll give you 40 gold for the bottle. That sounded like a lot of money to Tom, but nowhere near enough. If he held true to the worth his weight in gold, he guessed it should be more like 100 or maybe a 150 gold. No can do. Nanook, how much you say? You claimed it is worth his weight in gold, so 150 sounds reasonable. Not happening! That is insanity! May I see metal for reference? Volson had said he had 120 golds worth of metal that would give Tom a reference point. Reference? You don't use gold to trade? No. Have coin from home, I show. You get metal. Why he had brought his wallet, Tom wasn't sure. Force of habit, maybe. He would be careful to just take out some coins, though. The driver's license might spark some questions. Volson waved a few of the dragonettes over, and Arshan shifted so they could get a big crate hanging from his harness. There were quite a few metal bars all nicely arranged and sorted on little shelves in the crate. Tom guessed there were maybe 200 kilos of metal in total, mostly iron or steel. All in, those little ingots maybe around a kilo each. Back home, worth one bottle. Tom knew that wasn't true whatsoever. There was metal here for maybe $300, with most of it being steel. The brass and copper was most likely worth more than the rest combined. He did still have the spices too for the rest of what the Nook wanted. I show you something else. As Tom returned with the little box of glass jars, Volson's eyes went wide. Are those what I think they are? Spices, Tom retorted triumphantly. What kinds? Volson was clearly trying hard not to sound too excited, if failing somewhat. Don't know your names. Many you not know, I think. This is incredible. How did you get them out of the south? Well, that was interesting news, Tom thought. Another note for later. Money and power. Tom rubbed his fingers together and smiled at the merchant. He was playing this guy hard. It was mostly from the local supermarket, but hey, it was all for a good cause. What will you take for this? Volson was clearly excited. What would something like this be worth, he wondered. Might as well make use of the locals. What do you say? Tom went looking at the Nook and the others. A puma had made his way forward to have a look. If I know you, Tom, these are most likely the finest spices I've ever seen. I wouldn't take less than 100 gold per glass, but I don't know them all. Is that a non-pesquis? He was pointing to the small glass of saffron Tom had brought. Saffron, Tom went. Extremely expensive. That sounds about right to me. It certainly looks the part. Tom, that alone is worth hundreds of gold. May I? Of course. Tom picked out the small glass and screened the top. A puma sniffed the contents. Yep, that is saffron, all right. Bingo. Well, that should more than do it. Time to bring out the inner Jutlander and do some haggling. So, Volson, what you got? The dragonette looked stiff, as if trying to process what he was going to do now, then looked back at Archon, who was watching intently.
Lockbox it is, then,
Archon answered, cracking a smile.